I'm going to tell you how to most effectively use the Noxious Blightbringer in your Death Guard games. But first, should you be using the Noxious Blightbringer in your list? You don't really tend to take the Blightbringer for its ranged and melee abilities, as though it does have the plasma pistol, which can do a decent bit of damage at short range. It's not really significant enough to be worth the points cost, although it is somewhat fairly averagely resilient, as although it's not too resilient for a character, you do need to remember that it's only 60 points, so its resilience isn't terrible, and it's not going to be a main target for the enemy, which I'll probably get onto towards the tactics. Although the main reason why you're going to be putting this in your list is for its abilities, and the Sickening Vitality is the most important of that, and that's because most of your Death Guard units, at least within the same play company, are going to be benefiting when they're within 6 inches from 1 extra inch of move characteristics, which is super nice because it just allows you to get up the board faster, and as you're a melee army with the main disadvantage of the Death Guard being it's quite slow, it's just a really nice unit for us to have, as it can just get your units into melee, if you're lucky, maybe a turn earlier. Personally, I think that if you've got like a large game around 1,500 points, 2,000 points, or even higher, it's probably worth taking one of these just for all the auras. It's just a really nice buff for the rest of your army. But for smaller games, given it's not so significant, I'd rather take a firepower unit. Or if you are taking some of these elite characters, go for someone like a Foul Blightspawn that does have some decent firepower, as the Noxious Blightbringer isn't quite worth justifying when it's not going to be able to buff too many units, as there aren't many units on the board. So I'll take in larger games and probably not take more than one. Maybe if it's like a 3,000 point game I might consider it, but for smaller games you're not really going to be using these. In terms of how to use the Noxious Blightbringer and the best tactics, I like to use it with the bulk of your army, as obviously it's got the ability Sickening Vitality that boosts all of their movement, so you want to be making good use of that with most of your army within 6 inches, and also there's a stratagem which I'll get into later which can change it to 12 inches, so yeah, you're going to want most of your army nearby. And also I even like to take it into melee, as even though it doesn't do too much damage in melee, it is quite nice being able to use obviously the other 2 auras from it. Once you're within 6 inches, you're not really going to get that from staying at range, but once you're in melee, you're going, with the bulk of your army, you're going to be able to make use of those abilities, Toscan of Misery and Empric Malaise. I don't know how to pronounce anything. Now, the reason you can get away with moving the Noxious Blightbringers into melee with the bulk of your army is that it's not really usually a primary target for the enemy, and for the same reason you don't really need to put it near deathshroud or like specifically make sure that it can't be shot at, as all it does is a couple of auras, and I think the enemy, from my experience, is usually more likely to want to eliminate something like a Foul Blightspawn. That's something that has some decent firepower, particularly once you get into melee. This Noxious Blightbringer is not going to be doing much, if any, damage. Might do 1 or 2 wounds with the Cursed Plague Bow, but most of the time they're not going to wound or get through the save, so it's not really going to be attacked, so it's pretty safe to move into melee with the rest of your army. And as I was saying, the one stratagem that I do like to use it is the Undroning's Wings stratagem, and you can see that in the bottom right. Basically, it means that the aura is extended from 6 inches to 12 inches, and it's also only 1 CP, so that's really nice, particularly in the first couple of turns when your army might be slightly more spread out, so you're going to be able to cover a much large percentage with a 12-inch radius as opposed to a 6-inch radius. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, subscribe, because I upload Death Guard tactics every week, and comment what you want me to discuss in the future.